Nestled along the banks of the Ohio River, Madison, Indiana, is a town where neighbors know each other by name and life moves at a gentle pace. But in January 1992, this peaceful community was shattered by a crime so unimaginable it would leave scars that have yet to fully heal. The tragedy that unfolded would haunt not only the families involved, but the entire town for decades to come. Residents gathered in disbelief, struggling to process the horror that had invaded their close-knit world. At the heart of this story was Shanda Sharer, a bright and lively 12-year-old girl whose life was just beginning. Her smile lit up classrooms and playgrounds, and she was cherished by friends and family alike. The news of her brutal murder at the hands of 4 teenage girls sent shockwaves far beyond Madison. Headlines screamed of the cruelty and premeditation, and families everywhere questioned how such darkness could exist among their own children. The community was left grappling with impossible questions. How could such young individuals, barely older than children themselves, be capable of such calculated violence? Parents looked at their own children with new fear and uncertainty. The events of that night were not just a senseless act, but a meticulously planned ordeal of terror. The details that emerged painted a picture of cruelty that defied understanding, leaving investigators and townspeople alike searching for answers. The fact that the perpetrators were teenage girls made the crime even more disturbing. It challenged every assumption about innocence, friendship, and the boundaries of youthful rebellion. Shanda's final hours were marked by unimaginable suffering. The community mourned not only her loss, but the innocence that was stolen from them all. Vigils were held, tears were shed, and the question of why echoed through every home. This tragedy forces us to confront the unsettling truth that darkness can sometimes hide beneath the surface of ordinary lives. It reminds us that even in the most familiar places, unimaginable acts can occur. As we explore the events that led to this heartbreaking crime, it is essential to approach the story with empathy and a willingness to understand the complex factors at play. Healing for many is still a work in progress. The story of Shanda Sharer stands as a stark and painful reminder of the need for vigilance, compassion, and open dialogue in preventing youth violence. It is a call to action for communities everywhere to look out for one another and to never take the safety of their children for granted. The road to Shanda Sharer's murder began long before that fateful night, paved with jealousy, emotional turmoil, and a series of choices that would have devastating consequences. In the quiet corners of a small town, beneath the surface of everyday life, a storm was brewing, one fueled by adolescent insecurity and unchecked resentment. Melinda Lovelace, a teenager struggling with heartbreak and anger over her ex-girlfriend Amanda Heverin's growing friendship with Shanda, found herself consumed by jealousy. The pain of rejection and the fear of being replaced twisted her emotions, leading her down a dark path. Instead of seeking help or expressing her feelings in a healthy way, Melinda began to fixate on revenge, convinced that hurting Shanda would ease her own suffering. But Melinda did not act alone. She enlisted Laurie Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Tony Lawrence, each girl drawn in for different reasons. Some were motivated by peer pressure, others by a desperate need to fit in, and some by their own troubled pasts. Together they formed a volatile alliance, their individual insecurities feeding off one another. The group dynamic quickly became toxic and dangerous. What might have started as idle talk or a misguided attempt to impress one another soon escalated into something far more sinister. The girls egged each other on, their collective anger and pain amplifying with every secret conversation and whispered plan. Their plan was to lure Shanda out under the pretense of a harmless social visit. They hoped to catch her off guard, using the trust and innocence of youth as a weapon. Shanda, unaware of the true intentions behind the invitation, agreed to meet them, believing it was just another night out with friends. What started as intimidation and threats quickly spiraled out of control as the night wore on. The situation escalated beyond anything the girls had imagined, fueled by fear, adrenaline, and a lack of empathy. In the darkness, boundaries were crossed and the consequences became irreversible. The girls' inability to empathize with Shanda, combined with their own emotional struggles, created a perfect storm. Their unchecked emotions and lack of self-control blinded them to the horror of their actions, turning a night of misguided anger into a tragedy that would haunt them forever. Throughout it all, adult intervention was tragically absent. The warning signs, emotional distress, social isolation, and escalating conflict went unnoticed or unaddressed by those who might have been able to help. The consequences of this neglect were devastating, and the lives of everyone involved were changed forever. This case stands as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of unresolved conflict, unchecked emotions, and the destructive power of peer pressure. It reminds us that beneath the surface, pain and anger can fester, leading to unimaginable outcomes if left unaddressed. Ultimately, the tragedy underscores the importance of recognizing warning signs, fostering open communication, and addressing issues before they escalate. Only by doing so can we hope to prevent such heartbreak in the future. At the center of this tragedy are the individuals whose lives collided in a web of jealousy and violence. Shanda Sharer, just 12, was known for her bright spirit and kindness. Her life was stolen, leaving a void in her family and community. Melinda Loveless, the crime's mastermind, struggled with emotional instability and jealousy. Her relationship with Amanda Heverin fueled her actions. Laurie Tackett, fascinated by the occult and violence, played a key role seeking acceptance. Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence, though less involved in planning, were swept up by peer pressure. Their backgrounds reveal the complexity of teenage emotions and misguidance. Understanding these individuals is crucial to grasping the tragedy. Their story highlights the urgent need for intervention and support for troubled youth. The night of Shanda Sharer's murder was marked by unimaginable cruelty. It was a night that would forever haunt the small Indiana community, shrouded in darkness and fear. The air was thick with an uneasy silence, as if the world itself sensed the horror about to unfold. For Shanda, a typical teenager with hopes and dreams, the night began like any other. But it would soon spiral into a nightmare beyond comprehension. The four girls arrived at Shanda's house, convincing her to join them under false pretenses. They pretended to be her friends, masking their true intentions behind smiles and whispered promises of a fun night out. Shanda, trusting and eager for adventure, had no reason to suspect the danger that awaited her. The girls' plan was carefully orchestrated, their deception chilling in its calculation. Shanda, unaware of their intentions, got into the car, sealing her fate. The car ride was filled with nervous laughter and forced conversation, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. As the city lights faded behind them and the roads grew darker, Shanda's sense of unease may have grown, but it was too late to turn back. She was taken to an abandoned house where the bullying quickly escalated to violence. The isolation of the setting only heightened the terror as the girls' true intentions were revealed. The walls of the rundown building bore silent witness to the cruelty that unfolded within. The girls took turns assaulting her, each act more brutal than the last. What began as taunts and threats soon became physical as the group dynamic spiraled out of control. The violence was relentless, fueled by peer pressure and a shocking lack of empathy. Shanda endured hours of torture, beaten, stabbed, and ultimately set on fire. The brutality inflicted upon her was unimaginable, her pleas for mercy ignored by those she once considered peers. The night stretched on, each moment more horrifying than the last as the girl's actions grew increasingly sadistic. Her cries for help went unanswered in the darkness. The remote location ensured that no one would hear her suffering, and the night seemed endless. The silence of the countryside was broken only by the echoes of violence, a chilling reminder of the isolation that enabled such cruelty. The violence continued until the early morning, leaving a scene of horror. As dawn broke, the first light revealed the aftermath of the night's events, a landscape forever changed by the brutality that had occurred. The evidence of the crime was stark and haunting, a grim testament to the suffering endured. The brutality of that night left a lasting scar on all who learned of it. The community was shaken to its core, struggling to comprehend how such violence could erupt among its youth. Vigils were held, tears were shed, and the memory of Shanda's suffering became a rallying cry for change and awareness. This event is a chilling reminder of how quickly group dynamics can turn deadly. The power of peer pressure, the dangers of unchecked anger, and the consequences of cruelty were laid bare for all to see. It forced parents, teachers, and teens alike to confront uncomfortable truths about violence and responsibility. The details are harrowing but vital to understanding the gravity of the crime. Only by facing the reality of what happened can we hope to prevent such tragedies in the future. Shanda's story is a somber warning, a call to recognize the signs of danger and to never underestimate the darkness that can exist even among those we think we know. The morning after, Shanda's charred body was discovered by hunters in a remote field. The community was stunned as the horrific details emerged. The investigation quickly led to the arrest of the 4 girls. The trial exposed the extent of their violence and the lack of remorse from some perpetrators. The case forced a reckoning with the influences and pressures facing teenagers. It became a national discussion on prevention and intervention. Shanda's murder is a stark warning about the consequences of unchecked emotions and actions. Shanda Sharer's murder sent shockwaves through Madison and beyond. The community struggled to comprehend how such violence could come from its youth. Schools and organizations responded by focusing on prevention and support for at-risk teens. The case sparked national conversations about bullying, peer pressure, and mental health. Shanda's story became a symbol of the urgent need for change. The tragedy united people in grief and determination to prevent future violence. Its impact continues to inspire efforts to protect vulnerable youth. The legacy of Shanda Sharer's murder is both tragic and transformative. Her story remains a powerful call for change and vigilance. Shanda's family has become advocates for victims, turning their pain into purpose. The case led to new programs addressing bullying, peer pressure, and mental health in schools. It also sparked debates about juvenile justice and rehabilitation. The tragedy inspired community action and hope for a safer future. Shanda's legacy is a reminder of the importance of empathy and intervention. Her memory continues to drive efforts for change. Shanda Sharer's case taught society hard lessons about youth violence. Open communication and support for teens are crucial. The tragedy highlighted the dangers of unresolved emotions and peer influence. Early intervention and mental health awareness have become priorities in schools. Parents and guardians play a vital role in guiding their children. The case also raised important questions about juvenile justice and rehabilitation. These lessons continue to shape policies and practices today. Shanda's story is a lasting example of the need for vigilance and change. Shanda Sharer's story is a sobering call for awareness and action. By sharing her story, we can inspire empathy and encourage intervention. Community involvement is key to preventing youth violence. Remembering Shanda means committing to making a difference. Together, we can work toward a future free from such tragedies. Thank you for reflecting on this important story. Please consider subscribing to stay informed and support efforts for a safer world.